Hi, welcome back to my channel. This video is gonna be a little bit different compared to my previous videos, but I still hope you guys enjoy it nevertheless. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel insecure and scared sometimes to post more ranty videos or just like videos of me talking about my opinion, because I feel like nobody really cares, or like nobody wants to hear me talk for so long, because I do talk a lot. So that's why I initially started making vlogs, but I just realized that maybe I should just do what I want, because this is my channel after all. So get used to more ranty, talkative videos in the future, because that's the kind of content I like watching, so that's the kind of content I want to make. So I'm basically leaving this channel to be kind of a digital diary of sorts, because I really like talking. Anyway, sorry for that really long, unrelated intro. I just wanted to put it out there. Now we'll move on to the subject of the video, and as you can see from the title, it's about books, my new obsession, my new favorite hobby, the only interesting thing happening in my life right now. This video is gonna be about me getting back into reading and showing you guys my books and more about that stuff, and like how I got back into reading after not reading for years and years and years. Honestly, like the most shocking hobby that I've picked up, not even just in 2022, but in general, like I feel like in my life, or at least in the past like 6 years, because as a kid, I never liked reading. Like whenever we did like reading in school, like sure, I read like the Roald Dahl books like everyone else did. I was never invested in books, and I never felt like after I read one book I wanted to like continue reading. It was just like, okay, I'm done with this, I'm done with reading. You know what I mean? I feel like the only book series that actually got me like hooked, I feel like this book series like raised me in like primary to like year 7, Dear Dumb Diary. I was obsessed with that book series. It was like my life. I loved it so much. But yeah, other than that, or also actually maybe like, what was it called? Dear Dumb Diary and Dork Diaries. Funnily enough, I like how the two series that I liked the most were about like diary entry type books, and you'll see that I still like that type of style of books even like 6 years later. But yeah, I was never into like the Fault in Our Stars or like All the Bright Places or Eleanor and Park, all those types of books that were really hyped up in like 2014. When my friends were reading them in school, they were like, oh my god, have you read this book? And I always kind of felt out of place. I was like, I don't read, so I don't know what you're talking about. But now at age 19, I finally managed to find joy and excitement and sadness with something that rarely even crossed my mind before. I can actually pinpoint the exact reason why I wanted to start getting back into reading, which is this one video that I saw on TikTok that came on my For You page. And I'll put it up right now. As soon as I saw that video, I literally went to my bookstore and I had to buy the book to see what it was about, because I was so invested in just that one quote. TikTok can be really bad sometimes, and it can be filled with the craziest shit ever, but sometimes it's a good place too. And I was so incredibly intrigued by the book itself after I did more digging and I found out like what the book was actually about, and I read the blurb. And I'll read the blurb for you guys in case you're interested. Physics nerd Azel, and probably, I don't know if I'm reading her name right either. Azel. I'm so sorry if it's not Azel. Anyways, physics nerd Azel and popular handsome Roman are practically strangers, but they've been drawn into an unthinkable partnership. In 1 month's time, they plan to commit suicide together. With the deadline getting closer, something starts to grow between them, a feeling Azel never thought she would experience. It seems there might be something to live for, after all. But is Azel in so deep she can't turn back? Like, if that blurb interests you at all, I would highly recommend this book, because you can see how much I like annotated in this book. And I really like annotating. Annotating is something that like is another bonus to reading. I just find it like really cool and really fun, because it's your book, right? You can just write, highlight, literally do anything to your book. I feel like that's the point. Like, you spent your own money, you can do whatever you want with this book. And I annotate a lot, and I literally just like write out my feelings. Everything that comes out of my head goes onto this page. Like, for example, so true, you tell him, or like yikes, or like wow, I suck at highlighting, because I do, guys. It's a problem. Like, what the fuck is this? But yeah. But anyways, let's get onto the actual book itself. When I picked this up, like when I started reading it, I honestly couldn't put it down. It was so good. And I really like wasn't expecting it at all, which is the most shocking part about this. I feel like what I was most afraid of in this book, and I feel like what most of you guys might be kind of skeptical of reading like the blurb, is that it's like the cliche, you know, depressed girl meets depressed guy. They're no longer depressed when they're together because they love each other. It wasn't like that at all. It's hard to get a trope like that correct, you know what I mean, and not make it cliche. But I feel like the reason why this book was so good, and the reason why the relationship wasn't like so cliche, is because the author did such a good job in showcasing how most of the time the relationship was more detrimental than like a positive thing for their mental health, if that makes any sense. So it didn't just show like the bright side of, you know, like finding love when you're depressed, that can just cure everything. Like, that's not the truth. Like, it's a really bumpy road, even if you both love each other. I personally rated this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm not sure if that's a really high rating. I feel like it is because this is the first book that I read after many years of not reading, so maybe in a couple years I might look back and be like, why did I give this book such a high rating? But for now, I will give this a solid 5 out of 5 stars. And now I'll read some of my favorite quotes or lines in this book. It's like 5 p.m, so the sun is probably gonna start setting soon, so I really apologize for the change in lighting. So I'm gonna read one of my favorite. As you can see, there's quite a lot, so I don't think I can manage to read all of them. I'm gonna read one. Hey guys, sorry I look like crap. I'm editing the video right now, and I realized that I used a really shitty quote from My Heart and Other Black Holes when there's so many other really good ones. So I'm gonna read another one out for you guys instead of the one that I initially picked out, because I found a really good one that literally just made me tear up because I remembered it. So, I can feel everything, and I want to keep feeling everything. Even the painful, awful, terrible things, because feeling things is what lets us know that we're alive, and I want to be alive. Like, are you kidding me? Oh, such a good quote, such a good quote. That was this book, first book that I read. I just have like a big pile of books next to me. So the next book I read after My Heart and Other Black Holes is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stefan Chbosky. I don't know how to pronounce names, I'm so sorry. And I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard about this, if not the book, the movie, because it's really popular. I can safely say that this is my favorite book that I've read so far. I know I've only like finished 4 books, but from the 4 books that I've finished and the others that I've like started, I can very much say that this is my favorite. And also you'll see from now on that all the books that I've read are like related to mental health, or like the main character in all the books that I read are like mentally ill and like sad, and they're talking about like their life dealing with mental health. I feel like because I also have mental illnesses, I would relate to like the main characters talking about their own mental illnesses, if that makes sense. That's why I find these books like really comforting, even though they're really sad. I relate to them a lot, and the more I relate to them, the more I like them, because I feel like it's like reading my own thoughts sometimes, especially when it came to this book, because basically the book is about Charlie writing letters to his friend. It's so like raw and genuine that it's like you're reading his own like private thoughts, like his private diary. As you can see, it's like kind of a link back to Dear Dumb Diary and Dork Diaries, because like it's like a big diary entry of Charlie's. Just really like this style of writing, so I feel like that's what makes this the best book that I've read so far. If you guys have any other book suggestions that are in the style of like diary writing, please let me know, because I really enjoy those types of books. So let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious. So now I'm gonna read some of my favorite lines from this book. Also this I heavily annotated like some of like the parts, because I feel like I can't just like highlight one line and be like, yeah, that was good. It was just like I need to highlight the whole like paragraph, or I would just like bookmark it and just say like what the fuck, like this for this like whole section. I found 2 really good ones, so obviously there's way more, but I'll read these 2. I don't know if you've ever felt like that you wanted to sleep for 1,000 years, or just not exist, or not be aware that you do exist, or something like that. That's one of them. And the second one is, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like all I can do is keep writing with this gibberish to keep from breaking apart. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. So yep, these 2 very good like start to reading. Like these are my first 2 books. so good. Now we will move on to the third book, which is Girl in Pieces. You can see from now on, it's not getting any better. It's just going sad, sadder, sad as fuck. Oh my god. And this is probably the biggest book. This has 406 pages, which is the biggest book that I've read. And it's by Kathleen Glasgow. I really want to read her other books. There's a couple pages at the end that are of her other book, and it seems really interesting too, so I really want to read her other books if they're anything like this. Anyways, before I get into this, I want to start off by saying that the trigger warning that they offer in the beginning of the book, I'm not sure you can see. It's there if that didn't show it. Take it seriously, because I saw the trigger warning and obviously like I kind of knew what this book was about, but I thought they wouldn't just like mention it or like, you know, have it part of her like storyline, have it part of like her past, and just like sometimes like mention it but not like actually like dive deep into it. But they really do specifically mention those things in this book, like in great detail, like in greater detail than I ever thought that I would like be like reading it in. That's why also I had to take a lot of breaks in between reading this book, because like it's really a lot. If you're not mentally like stable, mentally ready to read something that's like really graphic in terms of like self-harm, I would not recommend this book. If you're fine with all that type of stuff, I would really recommend this book, because it's really an eye-opener above everything else like that this book is, I feel like. So this book is basically about, sorry, I'm just gonna read this like straight off my script because it like I wrote it down and I can't like memorize it, so I'm just gonna read it. Basically this book is about a girl who self-harms and has had an incredibly troubled past, which equals to a copious amount of trauma. Throughout the book, we see her going from the psychiatric facility or help center, I'm not sure how to describe the place, to living on her own, trying to make a new life for herself while struggling to accept herself and move on from her past. I feel like that's a good summary and doesn't like really spoil it. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars because I so despise this one character called Riley. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. But at the same time, I feel like because I hate his character so much, it makes the book better, because the book made me hate a person that doesn't exist. I could not give Riley the satisfaction of giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Like, I couldn't. Like, he's a piece of shit. Oh my god. Okay, anyways, that was Girl in Pieces. Now I will read one of my favorite quotes or lines from the book, and then we will move on to some honorable mentions before we get on to the last book that I've read. I have another one, but I really can't find it at the moment, so hi. I'm back. I found the quote that I was looking for, so I'm gonna read that too. Here we go. I am my own worst disaster. I did something stupid to someone. I just wanted to feel better. My own body is my deepest enemy. It wants, it wants, it wants. And when it does not get, it cries and cries, and I punish it. How can you live in fear of your very self? What is going to happen to us, Blue? And I specifically like want to point out the highlighted bits, because those are like my favorite parts of this little paragraph. So yeah. Also guys, this is like my most like annotated book in terms of like me actually writing in the book, because I had so many fucking feelings while I was reading this. This one scene I wrote, men versus not knowing how to talk about their problems and only expressing their emotions with anger. Annotating is so fun, guys. Like, if you have any ideas, any opinions, just put it out on the page. Like, it's really fun. So yeah, that was Girl in Pieces. Now we will move on to my honorable mentions, or like the books that I'm currently reading. And I don't have them with me now physically, so I'll just like insert pictures of them. It's called Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I bought it in like the early stage of summer, because in Finland I had nothing to read, so I went to like the closest bookstore and got the most interesting looking English book that I could find. Unfortunately, it's very much like halfway through, or like maybe like 40-30% through, because I just didn't find it as engaging as I thought I would. People were raving about this book, which is Beautiful World, Where Are You? I feel like I need to get more into it, but you know what really bugs me out? That there's no quotation marks when the people speak. Like, it's literally just text. So I get really confused when they're talking, like when the characters in the book are like speaking, and when they're just like the narrator's like POV like in her head. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like that at all. The speech marks are very important to me. So I feel like that's one thing that like kind of swayed me away from that book. And then I started reading No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, which is really good actually. I don't know why I haven't finished it yet. I guess I just got really busy, but I'm almost done with that book. I particularly like the fact that the narrator himself is like kind of unlikable, because like from the other books that I've read currently, I usually like really like the narrator and I really relate to the narrator. I mean, in some cases I do relate to the narrator of No Longer Human, but in some cases he really is just like a bad person. So I kind of like that you have kind of like a juxtaposition. And then I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold Part 1 and Part 2. Funny story about that, I actually bought the Part 2 first because I didn't know there were many parts to the book series. I thought it was just one book. So I bought it and I was like, I can't wait to read this. And then someone messaged me and they're like, you know, that's the second part to the book. I was like, what the fuck? So I couldn't read it until I found the first book, and I only recently found the first part. Once I get back there, I hope to start reading that book. I've heard like really good things about that book series. So yeah, those are all the honorable mentions. This video is such a mess, but now we will move on to, I didn't know that this ring light had brighter options, so now we put it a little bit brighter. But now we will move on to the last book that I read this year, or like last year, I guess, because I started this in 2020, but I finished it only this year. So technically, I'll count it in my 2022 books. It's Solitaire by Alice Oseman, who is the author of the Heartstopper series. If I feel like you guys would be more familiar with the Heartstopper series. I feel like Alice Oseman is such a great author. This book was so good. It's basically about Tori Spring, who is Charlie's sister, and even though Charlie and Nick are like quite not heavily, but like they're featured quite a lot in this book, I like how this book is mainly just about Tori and her feelings and her emotions. Because in the Twilight in the Heartstopper series, in both the comics and the TV show, I feel like we don't really get to see anything about Tori or like how she's feeling and like about like how she is as a person, but this is really like a deep dive into her mind, and I really like that. If I could compare this to any book that I've read previously, I feel like I would compare it a lot to My Heart and Other Black Holes, because they both feature like two teenagers who are like going through it, but like they find each other at the perfect time, and kind of like save each other, you know, kind of like an emotionally supportive friend turns into lover type of trope, if that makes any sense. I feel like I heavily relate to Tori Spring as well. I feel like that's also another reason why I really like this book. And the writing, Alice Oseman's writing is just so phenomenal. She can like make a messy situation seem so poetic and beautiful and so like well thought out, even when it's like messy and like disruptive. Like I don't know how to, I literally don't know how to describe it. Like I just don't know how authors know how to like verbalize like some feelings that I sometimes feel as well. Like they know how to verbalize it so well and like write it out so beautifully. It's crazy. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, only because when I first started reading it, I felt like the beginning wasn't that engaging as the rest of the book, especially like the ending. Like, the 200-page mark to the end was like the best part of the book in my opinion. And now I will read you guys my favorite lines or quotes from the book. Quick side note, but my annotations for this book are really funny because I literally just kept comparing Tori to Taylor Swift songs, especially The Archer, Anti-Hero, This Is Me Trying, and Mirrorball. Anyways, now I'll just read my favorite quote from this book. I don't want people to be worried about me. There's nothing to worry about. I don't want people to try and understand why I'm the way I am, because I should be the first person to understand that, and I don't understand yet. I don't want people to interfere. I don't want people in my head picking out this and that, permanently picking up the broken pieces of me. Very, very beautiful. That's why I was referencing Mirrorball in this specific paragraph, because wow, my god. So yeah, that was Solitaire. And finally, now we will move on to the book that I'm currently reading and the other books that I'm going to start reading soon, hopefully. So first of all, we have Almond by Won Byung-sun. I hope that's how you pronounce it. I'm like 30% through. It's really good so far. This is something I'm very excited to read, something I've been looking forward to reading for so long. I've literally tried to find this book in so many bookstores, and I finally found it. And finally, I'll show you guys the next 2 books that I'm gonna read, which is Love in the Big City by Sang Young Park and My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I don't know how to pronounce, I'm sorry. But yeah, those are my next 2 reads. I'll put my Goodreads username in the description box so you guys can see like when I'm reading, my updates, and like my my list, like want to read. So that's pretty much it for this video. Please let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of video. If you want to see more book related content, I will be happy to make more book related content. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll be back soon, maybe different location, maybe back in Finland, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this wasn't boring. I hope this was somehow interesting, but yeah, goodbye.